With just hours to go before tonight's State of the Nation address, we bring in SABC News Reporter Samkele Maseko, who's in Cape Town for the latest on the ground. A very good afternoon to you once again, Samkele. We know that earlier on this afternoon, we heard various ministers and law enforcement officials just speaking about the level of preparedness ahead of the State of the Nation address insofar as security is concerned. In fact, we heard Acting Police Minister Firoz Cachalia really just giving the officers and law enforcement officials some words of encouragement for them to be prepared and to be professional as they conduct their work this evening.
Indeed, Paul, the Acting Minister of Police, Professor Firoz Cachalia, will speak to us in a minute now to speak extensively on the preparations for the safety of the State of the Nation address to be addressed by President Ramaphosa at 7 o'clock this evening. Minister, just the preparedness from a safety point of view from the South African Police Service, how far are you with your preparations?
You know, in terms of their ability to secure events like the G20, like this event, when there's a defined area and the police have to secure the area to ensure that everything proceeds without incident, they are peerless. They are very good. And I can say that we have the assurance as the ministerial cluster that this event is also going to proceed without incident. All the participants, the guests, the representatives are all going to be safe, and the President is going to make his address unhindered.
When you look at the President's State of the Nation address, particularly around issues facing crime and criminality within the country, they are relatively out of control. What are some of the key segments the President is going to point out to South Africans that they are making interventions in fighting crime and corruption?
So, you know, the President's speech is prepared long in advance. Different ministers and ministerial clusters make inputs. So did I. There are certain matters that I have placed on his agenda for consideration to be included in his address. They are aimed at strengthening our fight against crime, particularly in the Western Cape because of the gang violence, but across the country. So I'm going to be listening with as much interest as the rest of the public in terms of what the President has to say. And after the address, I'll be happier to talk about the content of his address. I don't want to preempt the President's announcements. And then following the SONA, there'll be other announcements over a period of time because there are several initiatives in place to strengthen the fight against crime.
When you're looking at what's happening at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, the ad hoc committee as well in Parliament, as you as the Minister of Police sitting at home or sitting in your office watching these revelations, how do you feel as a minister knowing that these are individuals in blue as police officers? I'm
often very alarmed and very angry. I was indicating you offline, Samkele, listening to that brigadier talking about the bribe she's receiving from Kat Matala without any self-respect, without any dignity. I was shocked to the core. But we have to move beyond that. I said to you, and I believe that, the Madlanga Commission is a reset moment. We have an opportunity as a society to understand what must be done to fix policing and to improve safety and security. The truth is coming out. So we can now unite behind a reset agenda. Let's not so much dwell on the past. We've got to focus on what we're understanding about the extent of the problem and what needs to be done to place South Africa on a more positive trajectory going forward. The question is what South Africa is going to look like in the next 10 to 20 years when it comes to safety and security. We can change the reality from what it is now to what it should be in the next 20 years, because Madlanga is going to help us mobilize society's energies, its sentiments, our resources to focus on this central challenge.
When you look particularly around this brigadier who supposedly said she's a lover of Cat Matlala. Is this not a deeper-rooted issue, not only within the South African Police Service, but going into Metro Police departments?
I think it's an indication perhaps of a wider societal problem. I don't know if it's an age question with me, but there are certain basic moral standards that you grow up with, that you believe the society should adhere to, and to listen to police officers. You know, once you're a police officer and you rise up the ranks, you should be aware of your responsibilities. You should be self-actualized. You should be able to restrain yourself, make the right decisions, the right choices. This person is unable to exercise any moral judgment. So we must make sure that we build a new type of organization with a culture, with a set of values, with a set of capabilities that reflects what South Africa aspires to be. And she certainly does not represent us as a society.
Does Paul O'Sullivan still have some sort of a relationship with the South African Police Service?
You know, I don't know too much about him. He's been quite a famous individual. I listened to part of his testimony before the ad hoc committee. I'm going to have to reserve an opinion until, you know, these processes are being concluded. But I will say this: what are the boundaries between the exercise of public power and responsibility and private individuals and their role? We live in a democratic society, so institutions like IPID have to be responsive, they have to be engaged with interested parties, but they have to make sure that they protect the institutional integrity and the public role of these institutions. And it appears to me that line has possibly often been crossed.
How does a foreign national with citizenship of 3 countries have such access to the top echelons of the police, IPID, and other institutions, an individual who may not be loyal to the Republic of South Africa?
Well, I don't know whether he's loyal or not, but the general point you are right about is this. You know, how should on what terms should access be granted? You know, if someone comes to me, I'll recall that I was once asked, I was invited to dinner by a close friend who was also inviting the provincial commissioner when I was the MEC for community safety. And I indicated that I will not accept that invitation. So I think people who hold public office, whether as a public representative or a senior position, or even an important, any position in a public organization, should take care about the relationships that they continue with private individuals, because they are seeking access, they're seeking influence, and you have got to make sure that you exercise your public responsibilities exclusively in accordance with the law and behalf of the public, without being improperly influenced. I think that is one of the big issues that is now emerging in the 2 inquiries that is unfolding.
Thank you very much, Minister Firoz Cachalia, who is the Acting Minister of Police within the country, speaking about an array of issues, particularly that South Africans should be watching out and waiting with anticipated breath to listen to what President Ramaphosa has to say about the safety and issues of policing within the country, particularly in the areas of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and the ad hoc committee.
Very well. Thank you very much, SABC News reporter Samkele Maseko there, giving us a sense of the reaction and, of course, some of the expectations ahead of the State of the Nation address.